Good evening, everyone. Before we begin the public hearing, we will play our emergency evacuation procedure announcement.
Your safety is of the foremost importance to the MTA. Therefore, we ask that you listen and adhere to the following instructions. If you witness an emergency, notify emergency personnel in the room and call 911 immediately. Please follow any audible instructions provided through the public address system or visually on screens in the event of an emergency. If an alarm sounds, wait for a public address announcement and follow instructions. If told to go to another floor or to evacuate the building, leave all unessential items behind and use stairwell A just across the main hallway or stairwell B down the hallway past the elevators. If you have a mobility disability or cannot self-evacuate, please proceed to stairwell D or E for assistance by MTA staff or emergency personnel. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. If you need assistance during an evacuation, please tell an MTA staff member or emergency personnel. Thank you and have a safe day.
Now we will begin the capital projects public hearing. For the record, today is Tuesday, February 4th, 2025, and the time is 6:02 p.m. My name is Sophia LaFrance Brooks, and I am the Assistant Director of MTA Government and Community Relations, and I will be tonight's hearing officer. Tonight's public hearing provides the public with an opportunity to comment on MTA federal grant proposals for federal fiscal year 2025. The hearing is being held in a hybrid format with option to participate in person as well as virtually via Zoom's online platform. This hearing is being live streamed and recorded and will be available publicly on the MTA YouTube channel and Capital Projects webpage. Card captioning and remote American Sign Language interpreters are available at tonight's hearing. For your virtual attendees, to turn to card captioning, please use the CC button at the bottom of the screen. Sign language interpreters will appear on the screen for all attendees. To hear the translated audio, use the interpretation button on the bottom of the screen. Please note that each speaker is limited to 2 minutes. We ask that speakers keep their remarks to the 2-minute time frame out of respect of all speakers. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rule of conduct and decorum. We will now start with opening remarks from John McCarthy, MTA's Chief of Policy and External Relations, and Tiana Grimes of Capital Funding Management.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Before we started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to before we get into the technical side of the capital program projects hearing. It's important to note the significance of why we're here, which is the significance of federal funding and its impact on New York transit system. The MTA, as you will read in the document, receives both formula grants and competitive grants from the federal government. There's an annual allocation of approximately $2 to $2.5 billion in federal support. These funds are a big part of our capital program and play a crucial role in sustaining and advancing capital projects that keep the region's transportation network running efficiently. Projects like ADA, improve accessibility, signals, new signals so we can move trains more quickly, new rolling stops, etc. This is very important tonight because New York has a long history of being a donor state. What does that mean? That means New York contributes more in federal taxes than it receives back in funding. This has been happening for a long time. Again, this is when we pay tax dollars as individuals, go to Washington, we have to fight to make sure that those dollars come back to us. How do they come back to us? In the form of transit funding is a big portion of that. So tonight's engagement presents an opportunity to underscore the essential role of that federal investment in maintaining and modernizing the MTA's infrastructure. Looking ahead, The proposed $68.4 billion 25 to 29 capital program is expected to utilize $14 billion in federal dollars. That accounts for approximately 20% of the program's total funding. These investments that will come from that funding, that federal funding, are vital, again, vital to supporting a transit network that, this is an important stat, that carries 43% of all U.S. mass transit riders. The MTA is nationally significant on transit, and we have a critical need for continued federal partnership so that we can keep moving those massive numbers of people. So thank you for coming here tonight. If you're speaking remote, thanks for being here, and we welcome your remarks. Back to you, Ms. Brooks.
Good evening. My name is Tiana Grimes, and I am the Director of Capital Funding Management at the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. I would like to welcome you to the Capital Projects public hearing for the federal fiscal year 2025. I will begin this public hearing by reading a prepared statement, which will become part of the hearing's public record. I would like to note that a transcript of this hearing will be made and a copy will be supplied to each MTA board member. This hearing is an opportunity for the members of the public to comment on the proposals. Representatives of the MTA are here to listen and record your comments. We will not be responding directly to your comments today. The panelists for tonight are Jillian Prasad for MTA Bus Company, Ralph Barone for Long Island Railroad, Michael McKenna for Metro North Railroad, Alex Cohen for New York City Transit, and James Wardle for MTA Construction and Development Company. Also on the panel tonight is Sophia LaFrance Brooks, who is our hearing officer. I should emphasize public comments, including spoken comments today. All correspondence and emails will be transcribed and incorporated into the official record and distributed to every board member. The MTA has conducted a community involvement and public information effort to encourage customers' comments at this hearing. To make the public aware of this hearing, advertisements were published in 8 print media outlets, multilingual posters, digital and social media assets. Notice of this hearing was also posted on the MTA website, along with multilingual translations. The languages translated in addition to English include Spanish, Chinese, Korean, Russian, Bengali, and Haitian Creole. This is a public hearing being held by the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, or MTA, in connection with requests to the United States Department of Transportation for federal financial assistance under multiple federal legislative acts. This federal assistance is for capital improvement projects for the systems operated by MTA, New York City Transit, Manhattan and Bronx Surface Transit Operating Authority, Staten Island Railway, MTA Long Island Railroad, MTA Metro North, MTA Bus Company, and for the MTA Construction and Development Company. Copies of the project descriptions from which specific requests for federal financial assistance will be selected have been made available for public inspection at numerous public locations throughout the service area. In addition, copies of these documents were also available on the MTA's website since January 3rd, 2025. At this hearing, an opportunity will be afforded to all persons and agencies interested in being heard with respect to the social, economic, environmental, and historic preservation impact of the projects, and to submit evidence and recommendations orally or in writing with respect to any aspect of this list of projects. Today's hearing is being held in accordance with federal requirements to qualify the projects for federal financial assistance. We are here today to seek comments on the proposed list of projects only. The projects in this hearing may be more than we ultimately seek funding for, and the MTA may or may not do any of the projects listed here with federal funds. The published list of projects contain capital improvement work in the following amounts for each agency. New York City Transit, including Staten Island Railway, $8.182 billion. Long Island Railroad, $633 million. Metro North Railroad, $710.14 million. MTA Bus Company, $96.78 million. MTA Construction and Development, $2.553 billion. The total for the MTA is $12.175 billion. Anyone interested in categories of work which are subject of today's public hearing or the details of individual projects can inspect copies of the description of projects which are available on the MTA's website. Section 5307 is a formula-based program from which a specified amount of federal funds is allocated to the urbanized area for each federal fiscal year. The MTA will make the final program of projects available on its website, new.mta.info/transparency/grant-management for Section 5307 funded projects when the FTA awards those grants. In federal fiscal year 2024, MTA received $914.9 million in Section 5307 funds for New York City Transit, Manhattan and Bronx Surface Transit Operating Authority, Long Island Railroad, Metro-North Railroad, and MTA bus projects. MTA will be submitting applications to obtain federal financial assistance through various transit funding programs that support capital investments and infrastructure improvements. Final amounts that will be received for federal fiscal year 2025 are not presently known. The requests to be made for federal financial assistance will incorporate individual projects into programs of work and will be submitted as appropriate, following this public hearing in anticipation of funding that may be available under the federal transit and infrastructure investment programs. These include sections 5307, 5309, 5310, 5324, 5337, 5339, 5340 of Title 49, Chapter 53 of the United States Code, as well as other federal funding sources dedicated to supporting transit projects. The final program of projects will be selected from the list of projects published in the legal notice of this hearing. Applications will be prepared and submitted to the United States Department of Transportation. MTA proposes to A, submit capital projects to request some or all of the Section 5307 funds for federal fiscal year 2025 that will become available, and B, submit some capital projects to request 5307 funds remaining from prior year allocations and adjustments to Section 5307 program. In addition, MTA also proposes to A, submit projects for federal funds from the Section 5337 State of Good Repair Funding category for federal fiscal year 2025, and B, submit additional projects in amounts sufficient to request federal fund balances from prior fiscal year allocations and grants within these fund categories, as well as other applicable federal transit funding programs. The capital improvements to be progressed with these funds generally take place in the confines of the transportation system of the MTA or the city, county, or state-owned property. Any property acquisitions or relocations that may be required for these projects will be carried out in accordance with the appropriate provisions of law and regulatory requirements. The projects are not expected to have any significant adverse environmental impact. Should the United States Department of Transportation prepare a formal statement on the environmental impact of any of these projects, the availability of such a statement or statements from the United States Department of Transportation will be made known by appropriate publications. The projects outlined in this public hearing conform to the Long-Range Transportation Plan for the New York Metropolitan Region and have been or will be endorsed by the Metropolitan Planning Organization of the New York Metropolitan Region for Orange County and for Dutchess County as a product of continuing cooperative and comprehensive planning for all modes of transportation. Reduced fare privileges for the elderly, people with disabilities, and individuals covered by Medicare will be made available as required by federal law. All legal requirements relating to the seniors, people with disabilities, and individuals covered by Medicare will be met. In closing, I would like to emphasize that the financial aid that will be requested is essential to the implementation of the MTA's capital program. We greatly appreciate your participation in this public hearing and value your input on the proposed list of projects. MTA representatives are here to listen and carefully consider all comments shared today. While we will not be providing responses during this session, your feedback will be recorded, included in the official hearing transcript, and shared with each MTA board member for their review. Thank you for your time and engagement. I'd also like to add on the dais tonight is our Deputy CFO, Jay Patel. I will now turn it over to the public hearing officer, Sophia LaFrance Brooks, to commence the public speaking session. Thank you.
Thank you. Language assistance was offered in the notice for this hearing upon advance requests. At the deadline, there were no requests for the services. At this time, there are 44 registered speakers. Speakers will be called in the order they signed up. If you have joined the Zoom under a name that's different from the one that you used when you signed up to speak, please identify yourself in the Q&A function with the name you used when you signed up. When you are called on to speak, there'll be a brief transition on the screen. Please make sure that once the screen updates, your camera and microphone are enabled before beginning your remarks. You will not be able to unmute or enable your camera until it is your turn to speak. Please remain patient until then. In the event you miss your name being called, we will call the list one more time after all speakers in attendance have been called the first time. By attending this virtual webinar, webinar, you are consenting to be recorded. Please be aware that there's an auditory and a visual cue to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Thank you for your patience and understanding through this in-person and virtual public comment session. Our first speaker tonight is Ciara Smith, followed by Mr. X.
Hello. Hi, everybody. So my name is Ciara Smith. I am a native of New York City. And I know I have 2 minutes, but I have so much to say, so I'll try to squeeze everything in the 2 minutes time given. On your announcement on the train, it clearly states, if you see something, say something. As of lately, I see people seeing something, not saying nothing, and nor are they doing something. I'm a doer in New York City. I take care of 1,000 senior citizens with my non-for-profit organization. I provide beauty and grooming services for mothers and fathers, prostate cancer survivors, breast cancer survivors, and our veterans. A few weeks ago, we had a young lady die on a train, engulfed in fire. And I see MTA employees and our officers that wake up every morning to put on their blue outfits that I once called our superheroes, and nobody did anything. She's not the only person that I'm talking about, but she's the highlight of my conversation tonight. And all the other people that are seen on our cell phones, social media, MTA has the power and the authority to shut those things down so people don't see it over and over again. I want to be able to change those things because I seen something I couldn't say because I wasn't there and I couldn't do nothing as a doer. I would love to have the opportunity to promote and show you guys what I had came up with, a business plan that will help MTA change the native of New York City, as we all love to be there for one another in dire need, and I would never want to see that happen to anyone again. Can y'all please change and fix the trains and the elevators and escalators and the timely matter, because we need your help. Thank you so very much. And please do
Thank you.
something, say something, and do something. God bless.
The next speaker is Mr. X, followed by Brian Fritsch.
If you start a public hearing here at 6 p.m. and you tell us doors open at 5 or 5:30, I expect you to send us upstairs when you're supposed to, not whenever the hell you get around to it. And this is the first time you did that. You can't cut into our time. I told you that before. This is a public hearing for the public. Don't cut into our time. Don't use us as a stepping stone to get what you want. Don't backstab us like the OJs. Okay? You need to accept us for who we are and give us your love like Curtis Mayfield. You understand what I'm saying? I think it's sad the MTA head, or should I say Joseph Biden Jr., or should I say Harrison Ford and David Lynn with a bigger nose and a smaller head, is again absent. If he can hold a public hearing anywhere, particularly here, he can show. Did he no show because he knew I was testifying and he didn't want to make him like Peter Cow, again, the devil's disciple? That's a possibility. Okay, so Sophie, since you're here, I make this clear to you, your unofficial husband, and the MTA head. We got 2 subway train stations near Hostess College. We need an elevator in that complex. The South Bronx Community Congress advocated for that years ago, and there's still no elevator. When the hell are we getting this elevator? Are we getting it? And if so, when? You're treating my ball like a stepchild, like one of the 2 forgotten balls, and Staten Island is the other. We need an elevator. We need an update. Okay? Another thing. There's a passageway on 14th Street between 7th and 8th Avenues. It was closed years ago. You need to reopen that passageway.
Thank you. Please be mindful of the MTA rules of conduct and decorum. The next speaker is Brian Fitch, followed by Christopher Greif.
Good evening. I'm Brian Fritsch, Associate Director for the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. Despite the unprecedented uncertainty surrounding federal funding writ large and transit projects in particular, there is no shortage of projects in the MTA's pipeline worthy of federal support. New subway and train cars and buses, improvements in power tracks and structures, plus the transformative Penn Station access projects, the over $12 billion of work outlined is essential to keeping our system running safely and reliably for the millions of riders who depend on it daily. Transit makes New York work, and it's one of the few ways NYC is affordable compared to other cities nationwide. Yet the federal government already severely underfunds the MTA, which supports 43% of the nation's transit riders, but only receives 17% of federal transit funding. New York's congressional delegation should take note. One way to begin to rectify the funding gap is to advocate for more formula-based financing that is more objective and less prone to changes in administrations over a grant-based approach. A stronger and steadier pipeline of funding will aid planning efforts, reduce project costs, and support U.S. manufacturing. It's a no-brainer. New York State must also do its part. The governor and legislature have 2 clear, important jobs. First, support congestion pricing from external threats so the 20 to 24 capital plan has the funding it needs. And second, determine how to fund the $35.4 billion gap in the 25 to 29 plan. PCAC has outlined 24 funding sources in a soon-to-be-released report, so take your pick. Many of these options also support the state's equity and climate goals. These are tall but not far from insurmountable tasks. With the New York State support behind these capital projects, we respectfully urge the Federal Transit Administration to fund these projects generously. New York and its millions of riders depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Christopher Greif, followed by Maddie Highland, virtual.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Christopher D. Greif, advocate for ADA Accessibility Transportation Group. As I already put this in with us in MTA, this will be going up to Albany as well. Just want to be very clear, our goals and missions, as we already been doing for the last 6 years, which we are being accomplished, getting things done. But we still need to continue advocating for federal and state. And the federal government needs to understand accessibility is the priority 1. Also, bigger elevators, wire ramps, boarding assistance signages that could be not just up in the high in the sky, but also on the floor. Boarding assistance also counts for the assistance for the railroads, both directions, as well as accessibility. Passengers, they needed help on the railroad as well. Navigating, also the Navalance, which is being tested. We need to continue more of that on all the subways and buses, including the railroads in the near future. And yes, update our buses and accessoride and the train cars, especially stations that need LED lighting to see we can see traveling on or off the trains, indoor stations or outdoor stations. And very important, accessibility signs are very important to make sure we can see where we're going and what direction is transferring to another train station, on the train or bus, or exiting safely. We need to continue doing this and making sure the accessibility future rides with us, because the future has to move on and always move on to continuous accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Maddie Highland virtually, followed by David Paul Gerber virtually. There will be a brief transition as you are called to speak. Please make sure that your screen updates and your camera and your microphone is enabled before you begin your remarks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sophia, and good evening, everybody. My name is Matty W. Bucky's Highland, and I'm an advocate for people with disabilities. This is my first time speaking using this Chromebook, and I'm proud of it. Well, I do want to thank some people for the capital plan. I am disappointed, however, in not having to send out railway connect to Tottenville in New York to Perth Amboy in New Jersey and Middlesex County for the Long Branch line. As I know, I've spoken with Andrew Albert, the chair of the New York City Transit Riders Council, and suggest, because some people go to Newark Airport, which is a Port Authority owned facility in New York, so in New Jersey, excuse me. And I would like to thank for this Chairman Jano Lieber, Construction Development President Jamie Torres Springer, Commissioner Marie Torres Dominguez, Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, and Matthew Welbs, the Acting Executive Director for the FTA. And I'm going to mention, like I said before, as the accessibility, the future rides not with me, everybody, but with all of us. So that's all I'm going to have to say. I'm looking forward to see what 2025 brings. So thank you and God bless you. Thank you very much, Sophia. Good night.
Thank you. The next speaker is David Paul Gerber, followed by Mary Pearson, virtual.
Hello, sorry about that. That's a very strong speech by the very first speaker there. You see something, you say something. And with Mr. X, yes, 1.92 Grand Concourse is 2 years late. But we're here for federal funds. Yeah, guys asking for federal money. There should be an Elon Musk type of Doge that should go after the MTA and their finances. For example, East Side Access originally cost $4 billion. It tripled and was 3 to 5 years late to nearly $12 billion. You want all this projects here for all this money here, but they can't even manage the projects. Some of them are over budget and some of them are late. Copa CBTC, 1.93 Grand Concourse, Long Island Railroad, Grand Central Madison. Those are some of the issues involved here. So there should be a Doge, and the MTA should not get any money. And you guys want this congestion money to fund these projects here. What is the purpose of funding these projects if the MTA can handle in the construction development contracts itself? You know, I hope Donald Trump will come in and take this congestion pricing off, because the MTA needs to learn a lesson that they need to do their finances, manage their contracts better, all right? And you can take that congestion pricing and put it where the sun don't shine. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mary Pearson, followed by Jessica Murray remotely.
Hi, I'm advocating for expanded reduced fare hours on express buses. At the Bronx MTA open house on December 16th, one of your outreach specialists told me the idea of expanding reduced fare hours on express buses was once again being considered. For those who live in transportation deserts such as Co-op City, I do hope it will be carefully reconsidered, especially now during this increased push to go totally OmniCard. The New York City Social Media Toolkit states, starting mid-February 2025, all Fairfare New York City participants will be transitioned from Fairfare's New York City MetroCard to using the discount with Omni. Fairfare New York City will no longer issue Fairfare's MetroCards. Fairfare New York City will begin issuing Fairfare's New York City Omni cards to use with the discount at enrollment, renewal, or replacement. Reduced fare Omni cards are honored 24/7 on subways and regular buses. Why not supplement the senior Fairfare as well? Why not allow for reduced fare Omni to be honored full-time on express buses? Why are express buses the only means of transportation allowed to discriminate against seniors and the disabled? Even if off-peak reduced prices were only charged deadheading in the appropriate direction toward the outer boroughs from 6 to 10 a.m. and toward Midtown from 3 to 7 p.m., the MTA would make some money instead of potentially losing much more in the future. For our seniors and people with disabilities, express buses at full fare are an MTA cost-saving last step before Accessoride, which in 2018 cost the MTA $72.50 a trip, and by April 23 cost the MTA an average of $116 per trip. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jessica Murray, remote, followed by in-person Deborah Greif.
Hello, I don't know if it's my turn to speak. Okay. Hello, my name is Jessica Murray. I'm a member of the Rise and Resist Elevator Action Group. I just want to say I fully support federal funding for new elevators and elevator replacement. However, reading through this document on page 10, I wasn't sure if there's an error because it says the request is for $300 million to replace up to 25 station elevators at various locations. If that's individual elevators, you're asking for $12 million per elevator. If that includes some kind of long-term maintenance contract, I feel like that should be specified in the request. If it's an error and it actually should be replace elevators at up to 25 stations, that seems a little bit more realistic. $12 million per elevator just doesn't really seem, or elevator replacement doesn't seem like a sustainable amount of money to be investing. If it is per elevator, that means it's $30 million per station to replace elevators. And we've always been told that the equipment itself is not what's expensive. It's the labor, it's the having to move utilities around. $30 million per station is what we've been told some stations to do a whole brand new installation cost. So I'm really confused about how this can be so high. And so just wanted to note that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Allison Mintz. Sorry, the next speaker is Deborah Greif, followed by Allison Mintz.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Greif. I am a advocate for people with developmental disabilities and also with physical, mental, and other forms of disabilities. I've been very happy to see more of the elevators being placed in our system. I especially like that they're very strong glass and see-through. For someone like myself who gets claustrophobia, it makes it easier. I am looking forward also for when you can ramp a lot of the stations too, because ramps don't break down. I will be advocating very strongly to the federal government to stop not giving the correct amount of funding to the MTA, because for all the years that the state legislative has stolen money that should have been made to upgrade our system, which includes also the Verrazano Bridge, now I'm calling the old name, Tri-Borough Bridge, Queens, Midtown, the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, as well as the Whitestone, Throgs Neck. These systems have been underfunded, and people don't realize they're complaining about congestion pricing. Well, for all the years that our system was not they did not pay for it correctly and did not fix it correctly, we are now playing catch up. So if you want to make sure you don't accidentally see bridges falling down, or then being told we can't use them, or the elevators are breaking, we need all the capital funding to fix the system the way it should be. So it's truly accessible, not just only for people with disabilities and seniors, but for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Allison Mintz, followed by Noah Toba.
I'd like to speak to promote funding to the 168th Street station, specifically to get to the one and the greater problems it represents within the subway system. If you're familiar with this station, you don't like being there. The huge elevators are the only option to get to the station platforms, and there's a sense of impending doom on the way down. Once on the tracks, you're surrounded by a variety of unhoused individuals, people defecating in corners, and people yelling profanities and other random things across the tracks. You'll notice that I didn't say the NYPD. That's because they are never there. The only police presence at the station, if any, is above the tracks after the turnstiles, where a group of cops stands in a big group just chatting with each other. This is not only a 168th Street issue. When the NYPD say they are patrolling a station, you can only guarantee they are physically there. They are on their phones, playing games, scrolling Twitter, socializing. Officers need to be stationed on platforms and at station entrances, in pairs or alone, actively patrolling and monitoring for harmful activities, as is their job. And they need to be there all the time, or as close as possible to all the time, not once a week or when they feel like it. Ignoring these concerns is a direct threat to New Yorkers that is so frustratingly easy to fix. You are failing the city. Well, I'm here. For the love of God, add stairs to the 168th Street 1 station. Accessibility via the elevators is great, and I'm a huge advocate for accessibility, but it's a huge time suck and safety concern for those of us who don't need it. What if something happens on the tracks and emergency services need to get there in seconds? They couldn't do it. This goes for all stations with sole elevator access to platforms. So, to recap. Step 1, add public stairs to save commuters time and make stations safer. Step 2, consistent and well thought out police presence is the key to safer stations. They should also be inside subway cars like they are on the Metro North. 3, unhoused people deserve better than police just shooing them away. That won't solve anyone's problem. My suggestion is police monitored warming or cooling rooms at each station with monitored bathrooms for those who need a brief respite from the elements. Let's use taxpayer money on real safety solutions instead of in wake of recent subway crime tragedies, instead of wasting it on useless subway robots and Looney Tunes-esque fare prevention spikes that no one actually is hurt by. Just think, maybe if New Yorkers felt protected and prioritized by the MTA when on the subway, they'd feel more inclined to pay the precious fare. With congestion pricing also taking full effect, this would incentivize people to use public transit even more. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. The next speaker is Noah Toba, followed by Frank Swartz.
Hello everyone, my name is Noah Toba. First, I'd like to express my gratitude for all of your hard work for low-income New Yorkers to access the subway ride. However, as a Fairfares user, I wonder if you could come up with any alternative for current paper material card so that the users don't have to frequently go to Fairfares customer service center anytime the card got broken. Yeah, one of the possible options would be to make the Omni Fairfares. Again, thank you so much for your time and hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Frank Swartz, followed by Alberto Micheli.
Yes, a while back, over at least 2 years ago, I think it might have been 3 or 4, one of your machines stole $33 from me, and couldn't get the money back at the station. So I had to fill out a little form. I filled it out wrong. They sent me a card that I couldn't use. So I called them again and tried to find out how to get just the money back. And they told me to go down to one of your offices right here in this, I believe, in this building. Now that, of course, cost me another fare and 2 ways. And I went down there, and they told me, "Oh no, you can't do it today. We're going to have to do it another day." And so they effectively, I wasn't going to keep paying you more and more money just to get my money back. So you basically effectively stole the fare at that point was $2.75. So you effectively stole $5.50 plus 33. That would be $38.50. Now, when somebody tries to go through the turnstile, at that time, I believe the fine was $250, which is 90 times the amount of money that would have been taken. So here's a suggestion. Every time that the MTA does something like that, they should pay 90 times what they have taken. Okay. That's it.
Thank you. The next speaker is Alberto Micheli, followed by Juan Castillo.
Thank you for the moment. I saw the Governor Ochu said that there was a 2%. I saw the Governor Ochu said that we are 2% fare reduction after the fare enforcement, and I wanted to know how much was the cost for the enforcement people, because sometimes I saw them a little bit relaxing or even open the gates, so it was kind of strange. So I wanted to know how much is the evasion we recover, and how much was paid for the people. And I saw the numbers here about different projects. I would like to know if it's possible maybe to have some kind of better diagrams, reports about the spent in the years, like the timeline, how they've been, maybe like some kind of more graphic design styles, because I think it's a little bit easy to understand if we need it or more. And about the fare pricing, also some cities, they have a different cost tiers for tourists or locals. They sometimes the tourists, they pay same like locals. Maybe they come and they stay only a few days, so maybe locals can be like discount more. And the subway maps, I don't like it at all, and I think I hope they're gonna change it soon. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Juan Castillo, followed by Jackie Levy.
Yes. Hello. As you know, tomorrow won't be exactly 1 month since MTA started rolling out congestion pricing, seen here in Manhattan. I would like to express my deepest concern and opinions about the redundancy of accessibility simplification when it comes to adding elevators to subway stations. For example, the Bowling Green 4 and 5 station downstairs only has 2 elevators, but never 3. The Beach 67th Street Arbor by the CH station in Queens only has 2 elevators, but never 3. So, what was the whole point? What's the idea of adding 2 elevators instead of adding the third one? Like one street to mezzanine, and the other 2 make them mezzanine to platforms. Anyway, the money added for receiving from congestion pricing, we could use that money to fix projects to introduce 3 elevators for some selected stops. Also, we can also use that to fund congestion pricing to make the new Queens Link, which will reactivate the Rockaway Beach part of the I&D Rockaway line, have it go up to 63rd Drive, Regal Park, and connect it to the Queens Boulevard line. It can also provide an expansion of Phase 2, in which we will extend the QT 3 stops to the west along 125th, as well as introducing the 125th Street 2nd Avenue stop, which will be for the 2nd Avenue U line, which we will start at 125th 2nd and make its way through Queens to Howard Beach JFK without ever going to Brooklyn. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jackie Levy, followed by Miriam Fisher, remote.
Good evening, guys. So whenever I go and I speak to some Europeans or my friends over in Europe, they're always very proud of their subways. And whenever I speak to a New Yorker, it's never really the same sentiment, besides the fact that it operates 24/7. I don't like the fact that the Europeans are beating us, and I think that success for us is very straightforward here. So it's not an easy job, but you guys have a simple and straightforward job. Your job is to get people from A to B, and that's about it. And no one really asked for anything in this book. We just want to get there safely in a clean place without any human feces there and on time. I've seen pictures and videos of, I think everyone here has seen the video of the lady who was unfortunately burned alive inside of a subway. And this is right after congestion pricing goes into effect. I think before we get into any of these nice projects, and they're all great, although $300 million for graffiti or art in one of these stations is a little bit much, I think we need to focus just on safe, clean, and reliable transport for the average New Yorker, instead of implementing more taxes through that fares and everything like that. Start focusing on just making things more affordable for the average New Yorker. If you lower the subway fares, just like when taxes are lowered for most Americans, more people actually contribute, and I think that actually might lead to more revenue for you all. Yeah, I just want to be able to be proud of the subway that I'm in, not feel disgusted, and not have to be ashamed whenever I have to take it. So, again, thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. The next speaker is Miriam Fisher, followed by Sarah Virgil, remote.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. We need elevators on the subway for everyone, people with disabilities, seniors, parents with strollers, bad backs, knees, luggage packages. 23rd Street, 6th Avenue is on the to-be-determined list of the next 30 stations for the elevator approval, the 25-29 capital plan. I request approval. Sellis Manor is on the same block as the subway, a residence for hundreds who are blind or visually impaired. The president of the Tenants Association, Sellis Manor, said she could send me hundreds of letters right away requesting an elevator on the street. My request is for that to be submitted. I submitted this to the MTA in early 2024. Request for 23rd Street, 6th Avenue. That station has a similar history as Middletown Station in the Bronx. Extensive renovation, but no elevator. Now Middletown Road Station is on approved list for full accessibility. Let's do the same for 23rd Street, 6th Avenue. Similar history, many needs. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sarah Virgil. Sarah Virgil, followed by Harry Chafflin, remote.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Sarah Virgil. I have comments regarding the proposed bus budget, pages 15 to 21 of the proposed program of Projects 2025. With the 2040 zero emissions goal in mind and the 25-26 target to have 500 e-buses on the road, this budget calls to replace roughly 1/5 over 1,000 of all MTA buses, which will be up for replacement 3 years before the zero emissions goal, along with a $445 million investment in charging stations this year alone. This budget also proposes the purchase of 650 non-e-buses with a 12-year life cycle, requiring another large investment before the 2040 deadline. The 25 budget will leave a balance of 75 e-buses that will be required to meet the remainder of the 26 goals. Upgrading such a large percentage of buses within year one of the 2025-26 goal is unnecessary, knowing technology and energy will change drastically within the next 12 years. This would leave a significant portion of outdated buses needing upgrades close to the 2040 deployment goals. Additionally, there's a large investment in articulated buses, and based on significant ridership decline of 200 million since 2018, should the budget transition to other projects such as e-buses, solar, additional charging stations, bus stop cameras, or overall diverted to other projects. I'd also like to note that the 2040 zero emissions goal is assuming that the bus fleet would stay as the same number as it is today and not taking into consideration ridership data. And to follow up, what portion of MTA buses currently on the road are over 10 years old? Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Harry Chalfin, followed by Bill Ferns, remote.
So I grew up loving the subway. I even did a presentation on the Second Avenue subway as a little kid. Actually, no, I wasn't that little, like 12 or so years ago. And I went to school in Miami. And in Miami, I had never saw any fare evasion on the metro there. Now, I know that the stations is way less than here. There's only one line. But there was a certain amount of fear in a good way that no one was going to evade anything. I'm back just after graduating university about a month and a half ago, and I've seen so many fare evasions. It's a bit weird. I was at the 59th Street subway stop, and those Mickey Mouse, whatever blot things, I saw so many people just go over it. It was kind of a joke. I was wondering, as I was going down the plans, and I saw that there was like a 15 seconds for the exit doors. I don't know who thought of that idea. That sounds kind of crazy and a lawsuit, frankly. Why hasn't anyone thought about using AI agents? Because no one's mentioned anything about utilizing anything AI based. And maybe this sounds dystopian. Maybe this sounds like Person of Interest, the TV show. But using video imaging to track people going through the turnstiles, going through the doors, and then sending, if they're not homeless, if they actually have residents in New York, New Jersey, New York metropolitan area send a fine, just as if it was you running a red light, and they get your license plate and they send you a fine. I mean, it doesn't sound that crazy, especially in a world where AI agents are becoming that much more prevalent, and there are AI highways getting built, and AI is in everything. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Bill Ferns, followed by Alana Wang, remote.
Sorry, it didn't let me allow things till you just called me. My name is Bill Ferns. I live in the 10002 zip code, which is the Lower East Side below Houston Street. It's actually, we're pretty close to where the MTA headquarters are located. And I am a member of the Senior Advocacy Leadership Team working at the Manny Cancer Center. Almost a quarter of the population of the 10002 zip code are people over 65, 40% higher than the average New York City zip code. We also have a similarly high percentage of people with disabilities. However, because we have no accessible subway stations at all in our zip code, members of our community cannot come to the MTA board meetings in person because they can't get on the elevators. You can't get on the subway. So there's an obvious need here. None of the subway stations are accessible. The Delancey Essex station is the 29th busiest station in the entire system. And while it's supposed to be in this next 5-year capital plan, I'm asking that it be expedited to be included in some way in this federal request. I noticed that they were a little ambiguous and vague about all the stations. So maybe we can get this one in there. Also, we need more M14A buses, which are main bus line through this neighborhood, because again, people with disabilities need to take the bus to get to the subway. So my request is for the MTA to include the implementation of elevators at Delancey Essex and more buses in this proposal. Also, I agree with Ms. Murray, who spoke earlier, that the price per elevator seems exorbitant, and possibly you can get your vendors to sharpen their pencils and cut costs. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Bill Ferns, followed by Alana Wang.
No, that was me.
Sorry, Alana Wang, followed by Yifeng Zhang.
Hello, my name is Yifeng Zhang. I'm a graduate student living near Queens Boulevard. I'm a designer, urbanist, and public transit advocate. With the congestion pricing in effect since January, I urge MTA to use the funding wisely to effectively improving the subway station, including making more, if not all stations across the system ADA compliant, as well as significantly decreasing the headways for all lines via more rolling stocks, de-interlining, and CBTC implementation for the entire system. More importantly, I hope that MTA could put emphasis on more long-term infrastructure projects. For example, the Interborough Express project. It's not interborough if it isn't connecting to the Bronx. So please revert to the originally planned route, which included the Bronx. Queenslink, which is a proposed reactivation of the LIRR Rockaway Beach branch between Regal Park and Ozone Park for a new subway connection between Queens and Brooklyn, as well as the Astoria Line extension, which will provide a useful and efficient subway connection to the LaGuardia Airport. NYC deserves a modernized, more efficient, more connected subway system, as good as, if not better, than other metropolitan areas in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Martin Gorgansky.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Well, let me tell you, I'm glad we finally got congestion pricing, and of course the capital improvements, which is pending, as you mentioned. But how much of that money is actually going to be used to give us better subway service? You know, many track work projects have been shutting lines down for long periods of time and have yet to be completed. And the big disgrace was how many of them on adjacent lines were done concurrently during the holiday season, between Halloween and New Year's. That includes Thanksgiving and Christmas, when people travel the most. Now, one other thing, we talk about fare beating. Okay, sure we should pay our fares, but how can anyone pay the fares when the MetroCard vending machines don't work? There's here no bills here, no coins there, exact change only, out of service. And how much are you spending for this Omni? Is it needed? The MetroCard vending machine system has been working just perfect. Omni will make it even worse, and it's more expensive. And instead of spending money on a commuter railroad going from Sunset Park to Queens, fix the lines already running so we can get them back in service. Bus lines, no one took it up yet, but the B1 bus is a nightmare. That bus hardly ever runs. And that bus takes students going to college, it takes beachgoers in the summer, shoppers and go in the opposite direction on 86th Street is one of the most important bus lines here. And we can't even get many buses. There's overcrowding on that bus too. And many of the kids going to school have to compete for space as well as seats with seniors, many of whom are on walkers or have shopping carts. We cannot have that.
Thank you.
An accident waiting to happen. I have written testimony, and I will submit it to the court.
Thank you. The next speaker is Alana Wang, remotely.
Good everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
It's Alan Wang, but it's okay. So good evening, everyone. I'm from a non-for-profit organization called Public Color, and we specialize in using color as a medium to convey joy and safety. And we all know that millions of New York City residents take the MTA as a form of transportation, and it is evident that the MTA is becoming a more unpredictable pace to lead. And the question is, how can we provide a space that is safe for all? And I do believe that vibrant colors can result in a safer environment, since color can affect attitudes and behaviors. And our organization has actually painted the train station before, the Morris Park Station on the 5 line in the Bronx, and the residents in the area have reported a safer experience when they are entering and leaving the station. And what I'm proposing is that how can we bring that same experience to other stations around the city? You know, this would work in tandem with the station renewal proposal, which includes comprehensive renewal on various stations. This includes paint projects. I've submitted a proposal to Hoyt Skimmerhorn, which they recently primed all their columns and can use a really fresh coat of vibrant colors. And I do think this can be a very simple but effective way to create a safer environment for all passengers that take trains as a form of transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. We have reached the final 2 speakers on the list. The next speaker is Joseph Peters, followed by Tanisha Hamilton.
Hello, how you doing? I just want to make a statement. What's up with the Second Avenue Subway Phase 2 project? You know, I look at the program that they want to extend. They want to put the Metro North. They want to put the Metro North Railroad to Penn Station. That's a good project. And that was proposed around a long time ago, and they finally got the Long Island Railroad to Grand Central Station. That was proposed back in 1968. Now it was a long time because it was a long time we finally got it done. Now, what I'm concerned about the Second Avenue Subway Phase 2, because it got 4 phases. Now, Phase 1 was completed, but right now we had Joe Biden, who was the president for 4 years. So he had put that money for the Second Avenue Subway when he was in office. But now we got Trump in there now. So like, what's up with phase 2 of the Second Avenue subway? It's 4 phases. Like phase 2 should have been almost done, but right now I don't know what's going on because I have to go out there tomorrow to find out what's happening. Because like we got this concession prices it's supposed to improve the subway service, including the Second Avenue subway. So what's up with phase 2? You know, like after phase 2, it's gonna be phase 3, phase 4. And Governor Hochul want phase 2, 3, and 4, and after that, it's going to Brooklyn. So what's up? You know, that's what I'm trying to say. You know, like Governor Hochul want to expand the phase 2 to Broadway. That's a good idea. It's going to be a tow track after 125th Street to Lenox Avenue. So they want so what's up with phase 2? That's what I'm concerned about. What's up with phase 2? Santa Zoe. That is the number 1 project because the Lexington Avenue Express is overcrowded. Thank you.
Thank you. The final speaker name is Tanisha Hamilton.
How you doing? I'm Tynesha Hamilton. I represent grassroots building in the community and just justification for human rights. I'm here to advocate for the reexamination and expansion of fair fares eligibility. As it stands right now, for a single person to qualify for the Fair Fares program, they must make $12,880, and for up to a family of 4, $26,000. As it stands, low income is 80% of the average median income of, the population. And right now that stands at $32,000. There are more than half of New Yorkers who live below 200% of the poverty line. There's a blatant income contradiction for, people who are expected to qualify the program and for people who actually live in the neighborhoods who don't qualify to pay the tax of the transit fare. And for those who are making over $130,000, why are they expected to pay the same amount as someone who is classified as a low-income resident of New York City under $32,000? If you take into account that, people also are paying 30% of their income on their housing, everyone should qualify for this fair fares eligibility. That needs to be looked at. So right now you're spending $5.8 billion on NYPD, and as we can see, the staffing comments mentioned tonight that NYPD is not doing their jobs, and that money should be reinvested into, instead of aligning the pockets of the NYPD, it should be invested into helping people to actually, get on the trains for the passengers who you say you're supposed to serve and protect. And that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more speaker that just joined us virtually, Jason Anthony.
Good evening, Sophia, and everybody at 2 Broadway. Jason Anthony here. And I want to express my full support of this year's capital plan. And I want to say to Jay, John McCarthy, and everybody, we have to be prudent of what the federal administration is doing in Washington, because they have been doing some expressions early this week that we should be paying attention on. But let's say we have to proceed with caution. But obviously, yours truly will be providing 100% support to you guys in 2 Broadway. And let's say every accessible station that is in the projects must go forward, because like Christopher D. White says, the accessibility rides with us. And it is great to have more police presence in every subway station, but it's up to us to comply with the fare policies that the MTA has. Because if not, we're gonna lose service. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you. Jason was our last speaker. All speakers were called. Thank you all for joining us this evening. For those who did not already do so, please, we encourage you to take our short survey via the QR code or link currently displayed. The current time is 7:11. This concludes our public hearing. Thank you all for your participation.